All right, welcome to the quarantine check-in. Today I have one of my favorite Detroit comedians, the one and only Johanna Medranda. Did I pronounce it right?
Hello. Yeah.
How are you holding up during this time of being locked in?
I'm hanging in there. I just keep snacking on Oreos and interviewing comedians, kind of similar as you are. But I do my interviews on Instagram Live Monday through Friday on the Independent Comedy Club's Instagram page. So
I have watched a couple of them for a few.
yeah, they've been fun. They've been really fun. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome. So the Independent usually has great shows. How are you guys coping with not being able to produce them?
Well, I know that Brett Mercer has been hosting Big Time Garbage Live every night. They do it on Twitch every night at 9 o'clock. So that's definitely been helping, like him and Blaine Hill. And Bart Dangus, he jumps on, I think, most of the days as well. They've been like super creative and very hilarious. I've had the opportunity of jumping on a couple times, and it's just always a fucking hoot. Like, Mercer is just so funny and so creative, and he has like a backdrop with I don't know how the hell he does it, but it's all very technical and very cool and very funny. So I know that's how they're kind of coping. I know that like Connor's staying with her dad. Like, we're all just kind of in our little individual little pods, of course, dealing with it differently. But as a whole, I mean, we're just bummed out. Like, it's our second home. It's, like, we love to offer the laughter and to produce the shows, and it's sad for our comics that we had on our roster, and we've had to reschedule and move some dates around and stuff. So I mean, we're coping as best we can, and we can't wait to get back, obviously, but it is what it is. So
Yeah, I can't wait to get back either. I miss it. I was
yeah.
talking to Nick Kelly last week, and we were
Mm-hmm.
both saying our two favorite places to do comedy is Mark Ridley's and The Independent. And
Oh yeah.
I am so grateful The Independent exists because you guys give so many comedians chances that they wouldn't get at normal clubs.
Right.
And I think it's the new backbone of the Detroit comedy community.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I mean, yeah, we're trying. All we can do is try.
So how and why did you start doing comedy?
Um, I I wanted to do it for so long. I had been talking about it since I was in high school. Me and my best friend would always get into trouble saying the wrong things at the wrong time. But yeah, me and her, I mean, like, my whole family knows her, and they were always like, you guys are going to be on HBO one day. Like, I don't know, just like saying ridiculous things. And I've always just grown up with people who are very funny. I've grown up, my family is like very much so shit talking, like they're drinking and talking shit and everyone's laughing, and it's just like a jolly time. So I, like, since I was a fucking baby, like, I've just always been around that. I've always been like brought up to like have a good sense of humor, find the funny and the sadness, and all the trauma and shit that everyone goes through. I kind of look at it and I'm just like, well, it is what it is. We might as well just make a joke out of it. So yeah, I guess I've always thought about it. And then one day my good friend Bree signed me up for 7 minutes at an all women's like talent. It wasn't a competition. It was like a talent show in a way, but like an adult talent show. But yeah, it was an all women's format, lineup of like magicians and DJs, and like people were like reading slam poetry and shit, and I was the only comic on the roster. And she had basically given me a couple of days heads up, and she's like, hey, I signed you up for this. You've been talking about doing stand-up for so long. They're willing to give you a 7-minute slot. Just come up there with your jokes you've been writing for years. Like, I know you have something. So I
What,
did it, and took 2 tequila shots and went up there, and I have only shown that recording to one person. It's funny that you bring it up. It's Nick Kelly. I've showed it to Nick Kelly, and I will never show it to anybody else. But yeah, and that's how I started. I just kind of caught the bug, and then I met Kai Quicks, and she put me up on a couple shows, and the rest is history.
do you remember the first joke you told, or will you repeat the first joke you told?
Oh, God, I don't remember. I'm sure it had something to do with my appearance. I'm sure I went up there and immediately made fun of myself. I tend to do that, so.
A lot of us tend to make fun of ourselves on stage.
Yeah. Kind of break the ice at the beginning, you know?
So, I, from what I understand, you started producing shows in your basement like pretty early in your career.
Yeah. Yeah. I started producing shows way before I was starting to get booked on anything. I came up with the concept of honorary mentions comedy. I wanted it to be a production team ran by women, and me and my friend Kate Miller, we put it together and we started HMC. It was called the Basement Chronicles, and that's still a house party that we do annually now. But yeah, we did a show there, and then a bar in Ferndale called Soho. They gave us like our first chance, and we produced a show there, and that's when I met Bart Dangus and Mercer came, and they were on my lineup. Had never met them before. I met Mike Boone that night. Just like an outpour of comics came through, and I basically found them by like stalking them on the internet. I went to Ridley's open mic one day, and like a nerd, I haven't told a lot of people this, but I went to one of their open mics with my friend Dana and took notes and like wrote down people's names of like who I wanted to be on my shows, thinking like that I had a great idea. And yeah, I mean, we've ran some really cool bar shows since then, and it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I did start producing before getting any good at stand up.
Now, do you find that helped you or hurt you later on afterwards?
That's a question that I ask myself often, actually. I think it was helpful in a lot of ways. I think it helped me make a lot of connections. I think it helped me network a ton. And then I don't know if that's hindering me, because it kind of, I have that insecurity of, are people only booking me to get spots on my shows now? But I try not to think that way, because that's a very negative way to think, and I just take it day by day, show by show. But I think for the most part it did help. I think people were more curious about me, and more, I guess, eager to like give me a chance. And I think that's only beneficial if you're trying to be in the entertainment industry.
I agree. I think the first time I ever saw you perform was at one of the few times I've done Prankus.
Hmm.
I met you, and I didn't meet you and Lindsay, but I saw you and Lindsay both perform there, and I thought both of you are really funny because you were so different from most of the other comedians that I have seen like around. I thought, all right, they both have voices that are different and confidence, which is weird for
Yeah.
someone who was just doing comedy for such a short period of time.
Yeah. I guess so.
So when you were in high school and you thought about doing comedy, who were you listening to? Were you listening to comedians or?
I am not okay. So I am not a comedy nerd. I really wish I was. It's kind of embarrassing, but I was like smoking blunts and like loved Cat Williams. I was a huge fan of Cat Williams. During that time was when he came out with like Pimpin' and like um all those fucking ridiculous specials that he dropped. But that's when he was like the most known and most famous. And I didn't know dick about stand up. I just knew that like this funny fucking guy came out with some shit, and I would go to my best friend Ashley's house, who I mentioned earlier, and we would just like smoke weed and obsess over his comedy. And then I also obviously loved like Ellen DeGeneres, like all her old stuff when she was just strictly a stand-up. Loved her to death. Loved Whoopi, like all the like classic female comics coming up, or were coming up at the time, who are now like talk show hosts and ridiculously famous. But yeah, I guess I was listening to him, and then a couple years after that, I really loved Kevin Hart. I was just like very much into like all the sellouts. Like I was never like into the history of comedy. I haven't really learned, like it's taken me, I would say for like the past like 4 years now, I've probably been more into comedy than I've ever have been. And then obviously like in the past 2 years, I've learned more than I've ever known before. So yeah, not much of a comedy nerd over here.
So who are you digging today? I'm asking.
Well, I really have been enjoying Taylor Tomlinson, Rosebud Baker, obviously like Michelle Wolf, Bill Burr, like all of the big names and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I just interviewed Whitney Chitwood, which is I don't want to sound like too much of a nerd, but like I love her so much. And, you know, she stayed at my place when she was here and stuff. So she's by no means like a famous comic, but she's like on the up and up, and she's like a regular at some really cool clubs. And I've really been respecting her as, I guess, on like a local status. I don't know what you would even define her as, but I'm really into her. I try to support, you know, I am biased, and I do try to support women comics as much as possible because I don't think that they get enough recognition, and, you know, it's tough to come up as a woman. So yeah, I guess that's my answer for now. That's who I'm into this in the past couple weeks anyway.
Do you think that's kind of changing, that with women comics being, you know, harder to get booked on shows? Do you think it's becoming easier because, you know, some bookers are more open to it?
I would say yes and no. It's still infuriating that there is only still one female on a lineup, even like on a professional like status. It's just, you don't see it. You don't see more than one. I don't know if that's just like a numbers game because there are so many more men doing it. But yeah, it's kind of like the same classic like Hollywood rule of like, we can only have one person of color, we can only have one woman. Like, it's just kind of a bummer. I don't think that that's gonna change for a few more years. I would say maybe like another 5 or 10 years. I don't think you're gonna see like a full professional lineup of all women. You know what I mean? And I think it's just tough in general for women to be taken serious. I mean, who's in power throughout the world? You know, white men, and in comedy as well. Like, they, not just the comedians, but the people who are managing them. You know, they tend to be white male, and you run into not being taken seriously. You run into like being looked at as like a sexual object. You know, how are you going to advance? What are you going to do for me? Obviously, there's been movements now that have been helping with that, but I still think that there's a lot of distrust, and kind of like there's just like a dark part of Hollywood and a dark part of the entertainment industry. And I think it's been really tough for women. So yes and no. I do see movements, and I do see, you know, like more women producers, more women directors. Obviously, there's been fucking like Nikki Glazer, and of course like Chelsea Handler was forever been famous now, but these women are like killing it now. They're very, very famous, but I still, in my heart of hearts, don't think that there's enough of them.
No, I agree with that 100%. Like, I will say the female comics in this city are amazing. I mean, you have Carolyn Paul, who is supposed to be one of the headliners at my show that never happened last month.
Right.
Hilarious. Sam Hager. Newer ones like Elena Bamfield. I can't pronounce her last name or don't know it.
Yeah.
Ellie Snyder, Ella Horweedle. They're just everyone as good or better than the other. And I think right now Detroit has a renaissance going on in that respect.
I agree. And I wish that we had more opportunity to get up. I mean, I know that I'm very blessed and lucky to like be a producer at a comedy club. I get to host all the time. But as far as like branching out, like I tried to go to the Ann Arbor Showcase, and it was an awful experience. Like, I was not respected at all. I was put up first because the booker had never seen me before. And I know that I'm going to get that along the way. But it just seems tough. It seems like even with Ridley's, sometimes I just feel I've gotten work there and I've been very lucky. But I see other female comics struggle to get work there. And I don't understand. It's like, again, who's in control of those rooms? They're men. And they tend to not understand our sense of humor. They tend to not understand that like, this is kind of what the world needs right now. And the world is totally gearing more towards women, especially younger women who like, want to hear about these jokes about our love lives, and about, maybe it's not funny to you, but it's funny to somebody, and I think you should trust your audience. So sorry, I kind of went off on a little rampage there, but
I think funny's funny.
Yeah.
No matter who's saying it.
Yeah. I wish you were a booker.
I am a booker, not those clubs, but
right. I know you are.
So what are your goals? What's your long-term goal with this?
So since in quarantine, I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I do feel a little scared for the future of comedy right now. I guess just the entertainment industry in general. But if things do go back to normal in June or May or whenever, if they go back to normal as soon as possible, I would love to continue to run the independent. I want to be as much a part of that as I can, and watch it grow and see what can happen with it in the next 2 to 3 years. But I would say probably after 3 or 4 years here, I would want to move to either New York or LA, or maybe even Chicago if I have to take that as like a stepping stone. But I know for sure I want to move, and just see where it takes me. I think that having the independent and HMC has really helped me, and 313 Comedy has made me, not made me, has given me the opportunity to meet so many comedians from all over the nation. And I hope that I can arrive to cities and I can have friendships that are like, we believe in you. We've seen what you can do. We have your back. We can vouch for you. Let's try to get you some stage time. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm going to move to LA and start working at the fucking Comedy Store, but it helps to know people and to make connections everywhere you go. So I hope it pans out for me. But yeah, I guess that's the goal, is to move and just to get more work. I would love to be a comic that can just perform 5-6 nights, a week, or even if it's 3-4 nights, but if I can just pay my bills and be happy doing it, then I guess that's the goal.
No, that's the dream. And look, as you know, I'm a fan of yours as well as a friend, and I think you can do it. So
thanks.
So let's talk about Bonnaroo. How did that happen?
Yes, the golden question. The question that nobody asked except for Luke Nesbitt. He slid into my DMs real fast. So I applied to Bonnaroo last year and I did not get in. A friend of a friend that I went to college with, she helps, I don't know if she helps book, but she helps in some sort of artistic way, she helps Bonnaroo. So I knew that, and I kind of took a shot in the dark and had asked my friend for her email and passed along headshot, bio, clip, the whole shebang. And she said, okay, cool, I'll pass it along to the bookers for the comedy at Bonnaroo, and I'll get back to you. And then I just never heard anything, because at that point, I think I was like a little over a year in and was feeling like pretty gutsy, and was just like, I'm just going to send it and see what happens. The worst thing that they do is say no. And that's what happened. And then fast forward a year after that, she actually approached me and she said, hey, we are looking for more talent. Now's the time to send over some stuff. If you want to send me an updated clip, updated bio, all this stuff, let me know. And I was lucky enough to hear from her the day before Laugh Fest. So I took it upon myself to record my Laugh Fest set and then sent that to her the very next morning. Awesome. She got back to me immediately and she was like, we want you. So, yeah.
So, Bonnaroo is August or September, right?
It's what?
It's in August or September, right?
Yeah, they're postponing it until September 20th, I want to say.
Well, look, it's awesome that you got in. I'm so happy for you on that one. When I saw you post that on Facebook, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Comedy? I had no idea.
Yep. And again, it's just like, it's who you know and what connections you can make, and honestly, just trying. Like, if I had the guts to try to send some shit to a big festival only a year in, then I think anybody should do that. Like,
no, you never know where it's gonna land.
You never know. So, yeah.
So we talked about the future of comedy, talk about your goals. What do you want to see happen in the next couple of years with comedy on an overall scale?
I want it to become a little bit more relevant, I guess. Because obviously there's comedy fans, but there's this younger generation that is just like so obsessed with the internet they're so obsessed with YouTube stars and TikTok, and like it's like comedy is accessible to them at like at literally right here at the end of their fucking arm. They can have comedy at any time and it's free. So I understand why they are hesitant to like come and watch live performances. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just I want them to still have a respect for live stand-up, because in my opinion, it is an art form. It's so fun. Like in my opinion, there's nothing better than sitting in a dark fucking room and listening to one funny ass person just like hold the room, take it, make it theirs, and you're just sitting there enjoying yourself, and you're having some drinks, I'm sure, and you're there with a buddy or a date or whatever, and it's to me, that's the best night out. So I guess that's my answer is I want it to stay relevant, I want it to stay alive, and I want it to be respected, I guess.
Okay. Also, that's a great answer. Now, how would you describe the Detroit scene in one sentence?
The Detroit comedy scene is very gritty, and gritty, fun, and unforgiving, I guess, if I had to do it in a sentence.
I would add also welcoming to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Beside the Independent, where is your favorite place to tell jokes?
Definitely Ridley's. I love Ridley's. I know that some people are on the fence, but I have only had positive, I don't know, experiences there. I love Bill. I've met Mark. Mark's very nice. They take care of you while you're there. In my opinion, I think they're organized, and I think that they're running a fantastic establishment. I mean, they've been open for years, decades now, and that's very impressive. So
and they've created stars out of there.
They've created stars out of there. That's just yeah, I love the format. I love the stage. I don't have a complaint about that place. I love performing there.
I think that place has made me a better comic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you. All right, so I usually wrap this up with I become a big fan of missed connections on Craigslist.
Okay.
Because I've gotten really bored at night watching.
Yeah.
So I started reading those, and I like reading one and have you riff a joke off of it, if possible.
Oh God. Okay.
So this one is from Pontiac, and the title is Patsy Pontiac. Hi, Patsy. We used to work together back in the early 80s. You were a temp services employee, and I worked in the engineering department off Franklin Road. We used to go to lunch and were just friends. I was wondering, how are you? I remember you had a son. I think you would be in your early 60s. Do you remember my Mustang GT? If you do, please reply with the color and if you remember my name, and in parentheses, tall white guy. I dated your friend Cookie.
Okay, so this is a guy trying to find a woman
from 40 years ago, or 40 years ago, yeah.
Jesus. I was very confused for a second. I thought maybe it was a woman seeking a man and that she wanted to bone his son.
No. This is not a modern porn film.
That's where my mind is, being in quarantine, I suppose. I don't even know. It looks like looks like tall guy in a Mustang settled for Cookie and now is looking for a Patsy. I don't know. I don't have a joke for this. This is just unreal to me. It sounds like porn. That's what it is. Cookie and Patsy.
Yeah, it is. I would say this is the plot of a geriatric porn film.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah.
That takes place in the back of a Mustang GT, which would also be the most uncomfortable place to film a porno.
Right. Like they're gonna pop a hip out or something, these old folks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's the first porno sponsored by Beaumont.
There you go. I love it.
Johanna, thank you so much for doing this. I hope to see you sooner than later.
Yes, same.
Yeah, by the way, is your show at Fort Street going to happen once this thing is all said and done?
No, they actually hired us and then they closed a week later. Like the bar manager that hired us none of them had any idea that the big wigs, like the higher ups, they were planning on closing, and they just like surprised them. They were like, we're closing indefinitely for, in a few days. So
Really?
yeah, unfortunately won't be doing it. I was really excited for that show. We had Zach Martina. Oh, I'm sorry. You still here? Sorry, I had a phone call. But yeah, we had Zach Martina headlining that one, and we had like Sam Rager on the lineup, and yeah, I'm really bummed about that one.
Yeah, I was going to go there because I work right around the corner, and I was going to go there to support the show.
Well, yeah. We'll find another location.
Well, awesome. I will see you soon, hopefully. And are you doing anything online that you want to promote? Or
yeah, just follow the Independent CC on Instagram. I do a live interview Monday through Friday, 7:00 Eastern. So that's what I've been up to.
Okay, this will be going live on Wednesday. So who are you interviewing today?
Today I'm interviewing Sam Evans.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. All right, Johanna, thank you again. We will see you sooner than later. Bye.
Thanks for having me, man. Bye.